Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Old Ass Movie Reviews, where sometimes the movies are old, sometimes just me and Scott are old. Today, it's an old ass movie, and Scott and I are old and ass.
Hey.
Wait, no, that's not right.
Yeah.
Anyway, today's movie is The Omega Man, starring
I'm
Charlton
older than
Heston,
this movie.
1971. Are you older than this movie?
Yes, I am. We are both
Very
older
nice.
than this movie.
I know I'm a lot older than this movie.
I'm only 1 year older than this
1971.
movie, but yes. Still older.
Let me go through the list. We usually go through the list of people like kind of midstream, so let me get that out of the way. Charlton Heston was the main character, Neville. Anthony Zerbe, who played the head zombie slash family member, was Matthias. Rosalind Cash, who I believe is still acting and still very beautiful, who played Lisa. And then you had Paul Koslow, who played Dutch, the guy on the motorcycle.
Yeah.
Young guy back then, man, really young. And I know that I saw him in a lot of like cowboy movies, biker movies,
I've
gang
seen him.
movies.
Yeah.
Anything where he was like an outcast, he always liked to play that part. Eric Lonneville played Richie. Lincoln Kilpatrick played Zachary. I think he's the guy who climbs into
At the
Neville's
end, who gets
loft
killed.
and buys it. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I won't go into all the rest of the names because there's a lot of other people in here that don't have a line, basically.
Yeah.
The writers were John William Corrington, Joyce Hooper Corrington, of course, and this is based on Richard Matheson's short story, I Man, I think. I forgot the name of the story, but Richard Matheson was the writer that used to write for The Twilight Zone. And I always
Okay.
had and I want
Yeah.
to say it was
Not I Am Legend.
I Am Legend. That's what it was.
Okay. So that's also the title of the remake of this as well.
Yeah. And I've seen the remake. Not impressed at all with the remake. Didn't like it one bit. But that's me. The CGI I thought was terrible. But we're
That's
talking
the
about
problem.
this particular
CGI never
movie.
helps. Never
And
seems
I
to
want to
hold.
know, you said right before we started recording that you hadn't seen the movie before.
That's correct. Had not seen this one.
Go ahead, take it away.
All right. So here's the premise. Omega Man. Omega being the end, the last man on Earth, allegedly, but the last kind of human, at least Charlton Heston believes he is. And he's in a world that has basically we've destroyed ourselves. This is the common setup for a lot of movies, including Planet of the Apes, which we just watched, which I found that interesting, and some of the parallels to Planet of the Apes with the family here, because they became religious zealots and wanted to destroy everything from the past so it wouldn't be repeated. They saw that as a cleansing, a rebirth into this, and not to go back. Very interesting take. So it's gives you a lot to think about in this movie. Here is my number one complaint with this movie, and it's like nails on a chalkboard, is the music choices in this are absolutely horrendous. They don't fit. They sound comical. I need suspense. I need a thriller. That's what I expect from it. And it's almost like, what? It's almost a circus calliope at times. It's like, oh, this is ridiculous. That's my biggest problem with the movie is the sound.
The very first song that he's playing when he's driving down Los Angeles, I don't think that's the original music that they used. If I couldn't find my recording, I couldn't find my copy. I think it's been changed. I think they edited the music in that. But as it is 1971, I guess I give him leeway. I guess I just never expect really good music in most of those movies back then.
That's not, I mean, that's a fair assessment. I mean, I get it, but the 70s music has a style in these movies. And it took me out of it. I just wanted immediately to just take this movie and rescore it. Because to give you an example, I know you don't like the Will Smith version, But at
Right.
least the trailer is intense as hell because it's got great music, and that movie
Yeah.
really
Yeah.
gives you a different vibe than this one.
Oh, yeah, I'll
This,
give you that.
yeah,
There's good stuff. I prefer the setting of the Will Smith
mhm,
movie. New York,
yeah,
canyons, on an island. He can't really get off the
yeah.
island. I mean, he's
No,
kind of stuck there. And I think he's purposely stuck there, if I remember correctly. But
been a while.
the only movie from the 70s, right off the bat, that comes to mind that had a good soundtrack is The Graduate. And that's because the album was already ready to go. You know, they asked these guys, "Hey, do you have anything?" They're like, "Yeah, we got a freaking album. Great,
Yeah.
it's going to be our
Well, there's,
soundtrack." I mean,
yeah,
they were ready, and it all fit. It's all good. But for the 70s, for whatever reason, they always had kind of strange music.
yeah.
Even Bonnie and Clyde, that movie had some strange choices in music. Some really good choices, but some very
And
weird
maybe
choices.
maybe that is a stylistic choice of the 70s, and if I was watching this in the 70s, it would have felt right.
Right.
But it watching it now with what I'm used to and what I would expect to hear
Yeah.
in some of these setups,
Yeah.
um, brought comedy instead of tension. And it's like, oh, whoa, wait a minute.
Right.
And that's just
No, I
because of
get
the
it.
way I'm hearing it. But in the 70s, I may have heard it differently. But overall, I like this story. I like this setup. Not a fan of Charlton Heston in this role. I really, I really just don't. I don't buy him.
For me,
So
there's a couple of cringe moments, and they both have to do with when he's laughing. And to me, I'm like, that's way overkill for the laugh. So I'm thinking there was an edit there someplace because
yeah,
this
there's
guy
some
played
weird.
Moses. This guy
I know
played
he's a
freaking.
phenomenal actor,
He's a phenomenal
but in
actor.
here,
He's
I think
not
it's a
going to hit
casting.
that laugh unless somebody's told him to, and told him,
Yeah,
well, this is the reaction you're going to have because this is said. And I think the edit was wrong. You know what I mean?
yeah,
It just because there was a one or two points where he's laughing, and I was just like, he's he's laughing like Doctor Evil way too long, and it's out of
yeah.
place.
There was, well,
But
and
that's a little pick for me. That's I was looking
it
for things
was
to say because we're doing this.
right. It was
Yeah,
almost if they were looking for ways to show him cracking from being the
right.
only person, because with the telephones at the beginning, and then
Yeah, yeah, that was
it
good.
caught with the laugh and stuff. It's like, okay, I see we're dealing with maybe his mind. He's slipping, and my
Mhm.
God, who wouldn't if you're the
Yeah, right.
last guy there? But there was just, I just didn't feel it, and that's not Charlton Heston's fault. That's not anybody's fault but mine, because I just didn't buy
Right.
him in that role. I think it's miscast. Um, that's it's a 70s movie. It's got a neat setup. One of the things that I found neat is Janine had mentioned that, man, this feels like a Star Trek episode. It's like,
Yeah.
damn.
But
Once she said that, the movie changed
yeah,
for me, and it's like, okay, this is pretty damn cool.
see, that's anytime I see Matheson's name on a script, I instantly think Twilight Zone, not Star Trek's
ah,
Twilight Zone, and I'm like, okay, this is a Twilight Zone episode. This
mhm.
is where he was going with this, and it's very
I can
interesting to
see
see
it.
this guy. He sold this same story a few times. There was a remake. I wish I could find it, and it's one of your favorite actors is in it. And
One
it
of my
was the
favorites.
first, yeah, the first movie that I remember seeing. I want to call it The Last Man Alive, but I can't find it when I pull it up. Um, and
Okay.
my mind just went blank on the guy who it is that did the movie because that's what I do, folks.
Yeah.
If you
Well,
don't watch Scott and I on a regular basis, I will absolutely lose my mind
right.
over a name. Like, um,
Well, one of the things with this movie though is another, and I'm going to get the issues out of the way, then I'll talk about the good,
right,
um, because there is good. The other issue is we had a lot of narration monologue from Charlton Heston at the beginning, a lot of telling, not showing,
right,
which
right.
when we watched Soylent Green, it did a lot of, it showed you everything
Mhm.
in the opening credits.
Right.
This
Right.
this required him talking a little too much out loud to show stuff, and I
Right.
just that bothered me a little bit. But again, I'm nitpicking. It's a good science fiction story. I was hoping for a. I mean, it did have a good ending, but by the time it got to the end, I wanted him to live. I mean, I never hated the character,
Right.
but I just didn't feel he was quite right. But that's me on this.
I I really wanted to know because there's so much going on undertone. This is Matheson's greatest ability when he writes a story, and these two writers picked up on it really well.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, the story is nothing like the original. Um, not much like the original. I think, if I'm not mistaken, the the family is actually more zombie-like. They're not as intelligent, if I remember correctly. But Vincent Price's version of it, which I'm going to try and get the name of it right now. I was more curious as how you felt, or if you picked up on all of the religious undertones throughout the movie about being the last man, his blood being the saving grace for humanity.
No, believe it or not, I normally
You didn't
catch
pick up on
that.
any of that.
Did
I'm
not.
shocked. I
You
honestly was
know,
waiting for you to bring that up. I really
I
was,
I
because the little
wish I
girl
would
asks
have.
when Neville finds Lisa and he takes
Uh
her up
huh.
to their cabin, and the little girl, they're talking, and the little girl looks at Charlton Heston and says, "Are you God?" And he's just looking at the little girl like, "What?" And Lisa's like, "Well, let's find out if he's even a doctor first." And then later on, you see him taking the blood out of himself,
Hmm.
using it to cure Richie, the other kid that's
Yeah.
infected.
Oh, that poor
His
kid.
blood helps that, and then his blood is also going to help Lisa and everybody else. So the execution at the end, when
That
he's
looked like
like
I
up
know
on the
that
water
that I did catch. Is like this is kind of almost a
and,
crucifixion, but I
and,
still didn't
and all the
didn't
blood
get
coming
didn't put
down.
through it. Yeah.
I read that was actually just kind of a happy accident. Like,
Ah.
when he initially did it, he's just like falling back and like just kind of
Ah.
laying there, and the director was like, "Oh man, that's
Perfect.
perfect." So when they did that last shot in the day, he kind of twisted his body a little bit to make him look more like a
Hmm.
crucifixion, and I was like, "That's brilliant." And you have the girl with the hood over her head at his feet, which is
Wow.
even
So
more.
this is crazy that I didn't. I usually see it and run with it, but damn,
I was waiting for you to bring that up. I thought for sure, I was like, these are going to be the first things he hits on.
dude, I
He's
can't
because
believe it.
you usually pick a lot of that shit up way
Yeah.
before I do.
Yeah, I think I was
And
just so exhausted after work today, and I was like, I
oh
just
no, I get
completely
it.
missed that, man.
I completely get it. But these are things that I, as a kid growing up, because I've watched this movie a lot. I love this movie.
Hmm.
Um, Looking at it today as a critical thinker, the two things that really bothered me were his laughing. Like they were out of place. They were
Yeah.
out of place, and the one that was in place lasted too long for too long
Right.
for what the joke was. Rosalind, I want to say
Ash.
Rosalind Cash. There's a scene where they're the last two adults, basically, because the one other guy is Dutch, is too young for Rosalind. She's probably in her 30s. Charlton Heston's probably in his mid to late 40s at this point, at least. At least. So she's looking at Dutch like, "Oh, you're too
Mm,
young. I'm the last woman on earth. You're the last guy. You're going to be the last guy." you know.
yeah.
But when her and Neville hit up, there's a scene where she's walking around naked, and if you
Hmm.
noticed, face is in shadow. That's a body double. If I remember correctly, that's a body double that is not her,
Huh.
because either that was a director's choice. I'm trying to remember what I read years ago. It was either the director wanted her to do the nude scene. She was like, yeah, no, I'm not comfortable with that. But you can go get a body double. Or it was a afterthought. Like she was all her work was done, and the guy was like, you know what, this it, they need to have a nude scene with her, and was like, shit, she's already gone. Go get a
Mm.
body double. So either way, I thought it was very interesting about her acting that's not her. But they did a
Huh.
good job on her in the
Oh,
face, I thought.
yeah, I never caught it, man.
And like I said, the death scene at the end, there's two people who have great deaths. Cagney and Heston. They always have a great death scene, man. They always have a great death scene. And that being the happy accident with, falling into the well or into the water. It's just they had low budgets. Charlton Heston did a lot of low budget movies. Soylent Green was a fairly low budget movie. This Omega Man is a fairly low budget movie. He did several others, and it was because the stories were so good. He didn't want to always play Moses. He didn't want to always
Well,
play
right.
Ben-Hur.
I mean, can you
He looked at
imagine?
these things and was like, "I've done that. Now what? Oh,
Yeah,
post-apocalyptic shit. I haven't done any of those. I'll do a few of
yeah,
those. March, 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 march.
yeah.
And
He
that,
definitely did his best to not be typecast.
yeah,
So,
and you really couldn't. And really, when Heston walks in and wants to do something, you're gonna let him. I mean,
well,
I
it's
can't.
pretty
I would
much
have hated
royalty.
to have been a director. I would have hated to have been a director at that point in his
Yeah.
acting career to try and direct him. That's like trying to direct Captain Kirk. You don't. No, you just let him do whatever he's going to do, and then keep taping because he might do something even funnier or better next time.
Yeah, yeah. You never know.
I liked I liked some of the shots that they got, which would probably be almost impossible now in Los Angeles. Those opening scenes with him driving
Yeah,
down the road,
that was
down on a
impressive.
down on a Sunday. I want to say that I
Probably
remember
right
hearing it
when the
being.
sun was coming up.
It's either Sunday early in the morning or Sunday late in the afternoon because there's nobody on the streets. And they have far shots of the
Yeah.
canyon of him driving the car around.
Well, it
And it's
reminded
like,
me of have you seen 28 Days Later?
yeah, yeah, like that.
They did that as well with London. They made the fact that they were able to make parts of a city look so
Yeah,
desolate, and that's what they did
yeah.
here too. It's like, wow, it was well done on that.
Well, I remember walking through the city. This is New York City because that's the city that exists.
The city.
When I say the city, it's New York. Uh, Walking through the city a few times on a late Saturday, usually Sunday morning, Sunday, and you'd walk and you'd hear the canyons. I mean, it just nobody would be on the street. And
Wow.
it didn't happen very often because within a matter of minutes, cars would be flying up and down
Yeah.
the road. But there would be moments where you're on the street and you're like, holy crap, there's nobody in the city because you wouldn't see
I've
people walking.
I've walked into
It's
places in
just
New
really
Orleans
weird.
like
It's a
that, and
weird
it's really
feeling.
weird. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. It is a
Eh,
very strange feeling. And then all of a sudden you hear a siren off in the distance and you're like, okay, I'm not alone. Everybody didn't die when I was asleep. All right, got it. But it's really hard to get those shots. You guys did the Radio F shot where you're walking down the street on that one busy road and you had
Yeah.
the drone up to get that picture. And you told me how hard it was to get that.
Yep.
But it works perfectly because as you're walking, nobody's on the street. There's
We've got
nothing. You have
several
the abandoned gas station or something.
Yeah. Yeah, dude, it was crazy because right after we finished, traffic picked right up, and it's like, thank you God for giving us
Right.
the chance to do that. It's like
Yeah.
it was wild that just it stopped long enough for us to make parts of Atlanta look like the apocalypse, which it wasn't hard to do. But
Well, when you say parts of Atlanta, you
yeah,
mean parts of
but
Atlanta that look like the apocalypse where nobody's at.
Exactly. That's what I mean. Finding places where nobody was and making it
Right.
desolate was look that way was a challenge, and it was pretty cool. It's neat how you can take, and this is all camera angles. You can really do some tricks to really
Right.
fool people with these setups to make them more than what they really are. And this movie
They did.
is great. It's well shot, man. It's a good looking flick.
Yeah.
There's a lot of moving parts to this. The
Yeah.
family is um was an interesting take because I up until now I'd only seen the Will Smith version of this movie.
Right.
So, and in that, if I remember, they're more monstrous in there. They're more
Yeah. Yeah. They're much
zombie
more zombie
vampire
monster
like.
kind of thing. Right.
Yeah, they're much more
Right.
violent, aggressive, and less intelligent, it seemed. Here, this was an interesting take, and this is where I got the Star Trek and definitely Twilight Zone vibe of, here's another culture. And it
Right. Right.
reminded me of the apes and Planet of the Apes because of the way they were going. And this is like, okay, this is a cool moral thing to think about.
Right.
So I like that. I love this story. Absolutely love the story, the screenplay. There's just bits of the execution of the movie that I had issue with. I definitely recommend a watch for sure.
Excuse me. I'm looking for the name of the Vincent Price movie
Oh,
right now.
okay.
So don't think I'm ignoring you. There is, yeah, there is a lot of moving parts in this movie. There is a whole lot of moving parts.
Well, see,
And
you know what? You mentioned the religious undertones, and damn it,
right.
if I did when they brought out the trebuchet, I thought they were bringing out a crucifix, a cross
Yeah.
to crucify
Well,
him
did you
on.
not get, because I looked over at Kat and I said, well, that's the second time they're going to crucify him. I said, technically, it's the first
Yeah,
because he's like when he's tied up on the thing
yeah.
when they're getting ready to burn him.
Oh, yeah. For
They've got
that,
him
yeah,
basically crucified there.
yeah. That's
And
true.
the trebuchet definitely looked like a
I was like,
crucifix. I'm like,
what is going on
I
here?
missed that one. I actually
Yeah.
missed that one.
That one I saw, but I still didn't. If
Right.
I'd have seen the other, I might have put the threads together. I guess it wasn't, while it may have been obvious, to me, it wasn't
Uh,
nearly as obvious as in like Metropolis.
yeah. Yeah. Metropolis really, like, they beat you on the head, but they didn't, like,
It was artfully beat into our head.
right. Right. Exactly. Exactly. I'm looking for the name of the movie. Where the heck is this darn thing?
So we'll find it. We'll find it. It's
I just want to make sure. Maybe it is The Last Man, or maybe it is.
and it's Vincent Price.
It's Vincent Price,
Well, then I
and
will
I've
definitely
got
watch
it
it.
someplace, but I can't. I'm not going to be able to find it yet. I
Yeah.
thought it was
So,
like late '50s, early '60s, but as I'm going down, I'm not seeing it on IMDb. I don't know. Maybe they don't have a complete listing. But folks,
Last
if you
Man
do
on
get a chance,
Earth, 1964.
oh, you did find it. Why
Last
can't I
Man on
find
Earth.
it? Anyway,
Yeah.
you guys get a chance to see that movie, I
That's
would
it.
recommend you to watch that one because I think you'd probably
I
like that
will.
one better.
Filmed in Rome. Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
Interesting. 1964.
Very,
I will look that up.
it's very
Awesome.
close to this one. It's really, I mean, it's got Vincent Price in it. So
You had me
it
there.
automatically,
It could be
it
him reading the phone
automatically,
book I'm going to watch.
yeah, it automatically shoots to the top. He does do narration. There is a voiceover in that because
Mhm.
he's basically telling you the story of why he's there and how he's there
Yeah.
and the shit that's going on around him. But it's not one of those things like, well, I'm picked up my bottle, I've opened my bottle, and I'm drinking my water.
Yeah.
It's not like that much telling and showing. It's just
And
like he's
that's what I
telling you, like,
felt this one did at times with
yeah.
his out loud thoughts. And it's like, really?
And I
You
think
guys could have shown me that.
maybe that had to do a little bit with um
Budget?
budget.
Yeah,
I mean, that's all I can come up with.
probably.
I know he did a lot of low budget movies there for a while, and he did them because he just wanted to do the stories. He wanted
Yeah.
to work with the actors.
He
The
obviously enjoyed it.
very interesting thing, 1971, you got a white guy and a black woman making out, and they're
Mhm.
going to have a baby.
Yeah. Yeah, they
They're
are.
yeah, they're going to have a baby, and then she comes up with this disease. So I'm like, okay. So when she finally, because she's going to get cured, when she has that kid, does that kid automatically have the immunity, or is that kid
Probably.
going to come out something else. Who the hell knows?
Well,
But
I guess that
I
kid
thought
is the
that was very
Messiah
interesting. Yeah, right.
because he'll
I want to
bridge
see
the
that kid's
gap between
story.
the two. So,
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah. It's an interesting take because they didn't do that kind of thing back then.
no,
And
no, they
as far
didn't.
as I know, I don't remember reading anything that was derogatory about that back then.
Mhm.
Which you would think that everybody in the world, because it was so racist back then, but
Oh,
that
no,
there would
we're
have been
more
a
so
big
now.
deal. But
So,
I don't think anybody gave a shit. I mean, hey,
mm-mm.
you got Charlton Heston and you got Rosalind Cash, and
Yep.
everybody's like, "Hey, oh no, they're both good looking. It's okay." I mean, what else would you have to complain about?
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
like,
I
what if
mean,
one of them was extremely ugly? You'd be like, "Oh, come on,"
one
but
of
no.
one of the bits of the movie, and it's kind of a sad bit. I guess the kid Richie, he gets
Yeah,
cured,
yeah,
and he is the moral compass in the movie. He's the one who brings up the similarities between Charlton Heston's character and the
right,
family. And
right,
Heston calls them a bunch of psychopathic murderers, and he is correct.
right.
But the kid says, I don't know, you scare me more than they do.
Yeah,
I'm going to go find
yeah,
out the truth because he's
yeah,
believing in the best in people. He's believing in the good that if he goes and tells them there's a cure, poor kid doesn't realize they don't want the cure. They feel they've been reborn and this
yeah.
is
They are
divine. So,
mentally insane at that point.
yes.
And could you bring them back? That you'd be putting your life and everyone else's life that's left that has,
Yeah.
a conscience and a conscientious view around you.
Mhm.
You'd be putting all those kids' lives in danger by staying there trying to save
Yeah.
them.
See,
And
they not,
that's the conversation Charlton Heston's character should have had,
yeah,
but
because
it's
they're
not.
not only, they not only are cultish with
Hmm.
with their leader Matthias, he also has some sort of control beyond. So if something happened in
Yeah,
this mutation, he's almost
he's
like he's
calling to them.
calling them, and they're
Yeah.
coming, and so he's got power. And I thought that
Hmm.
was interesting.
I thought that was odd too, but it never really sank in until the watching of this episode when he's up there calling to Lisa.
Yeah, that's where I saw it. I was like,
It's like,
oh,
wait a
wait a
minute.
minute.
Yeah, it's
She's
like,
like being pulled. It's
yeah,
like Dracula calling his wives. It's like,
exactly, exactly. I think they needed to work on that. That's the only. The family was not my favorite version of this. I think you'll like the more zombie esque versions in what's his name's version
yeah,
of it.
this was a good take. This was not a bad take at all on it. I could
No,
see
no, this
this
is my
redone
favorite
with the
take.
family. This
Mhm.
and this reminded me of the 70s gang movies, and that's why I said, hey man, we need to do Assault on Precinct 13. That's why I was thinking that. Because it just had that grit, that dirt that a
That's fine. That
70s
works.
movie has, and
Yeah, yeah. The
and
Warriors, Assault
yeah,
on
the
Precinct
Warriors.
13. Yeah,
Yeah.
those are all good. Yeah, we'll do 13. We'll do that one next.
Coming up, y'all. So I say, yes, watch it. You'll probably have some issues with it, or you might not. Hey,
Yeah. If you like me and you like old 70s movies, you said, Scott, that the soundtrack was kind of
yeah,
bothering
the
you.
sound bothered
I
me.
guess I'm just used to bad
Yeah, maybe so,
soundtracks in
man.
old 70s. The you know who did soundtracks right back in the 70s? Blaxploitation movies.
Absolutely, they fit.
They
It
did
was
them so
perfect.
well. That music fits so freaking well.
That's wonderful.
And I think
I can
what
hear it play in
happens
my
is some
head right
people,
now.
yeah, they just lose, Superfly.
Yeah,
Superfly.
Shaft.
They just lost something in some of the movies
Yeah,
back then. I don't know why.
yeah.
You know?
This one again. That's my main issue is that, and I
Yeah.
didn't really feel Charlton Heston in this role, not because of his acting. It was just
Right.
something I can't explain. That's just it.
Right. No,
So
I get it. It's a fair assessment. I get it.
yeah. So
But
yes, folks.
I also say watch this movie. I don't have as many problems. Little nitpicky stuff. Of I think Vincent Price's version is really good. And I think if you did a remake without Will Smith, for the love of God, without Will Smith, you're going to do a remake, kind of mix the Vincent Price version and the Charlton Heston version a little bit together. And I think you'll have a really good take on what Matheson was trying to get. Absolutely read the book. Absolutely. I believe it's a short story. I think it's a novella. Read that story if you get a chance. You'll probably look at that and go, this is nothing like either of these movies. And you're probably right. If I remember correctly, it is quite different. But the feeling is there for the movies.
It's a good story.
It is. It's really good. Very post-apocalyptic.
Yeah. Yeah. And we're kind of on a roll. So.
Yeah. So we're going to go on to another post-apocalyptic thing. Why not?
Why not?
Hell, it's 2024. We might as well. Look what you folks got to look forward to.
Coming at you. Run, don't walk down to your nearest whatever. Anyway, the apocalypse is here. The apocalypse is now. So.
Yeah, right.
Anyway, so hey, folks, if you like what you hear, hit the like, hit the share, hit the subscribe. Check us out on YouTube, Rumble, and anywhere you listen to your podcast. If you got some movies you want to talk about, if you want to send us a story of movies or anything, just hit us up, man. Chat us up. We'd love to talk. So, absolutely.
For those of you that are new, I know we generally swear a lot. I don't think either one of us swear that much in here.
Not anymore.
But
it's there.
It's what we do. I mean, this is two guys talking about old movies that are friends. It's like sitting down having a beer.
Yeah.
My beer's in a nice cool refrigerator right over there that I'm going to go get in a minute. So,
yeah. That sounds like a plan. So thanks for coming along with us, and come check us out next week. We've got some treats going into the 70s and 80s. Later.